No, I'm excited for the conversation. I'm really fascinated with your particular approach to movement. I
Yeah.
found that it's been a really big key. I'm also a massage therapist, so I kind of get that. I really like that the mentality side of it and this idea that like we think of like a mind body connection and we forget that like the mind is a part of your body. It's not a connection, it's like that it's physically there,
Yeah.
present. I'm always like, that's a weird phrase. So yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation and where it will lead us.
Okay, great. Yay. So, I'm just looking at your handle so I can, yeah. What's a smusher?
Oh, that's my cutesy way of saying that I massage because I smush people.
Oh, that's smushing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that is
professionally smush people.
funny. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And I mean, you like casually say like rowing from California to Hawaii.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
barely. Like no one even sees that, I bet you, because it's like
Yes. That when
any
I yeah, when it happened, it was a big thing on social media. And I I was pretty young. I mean, I still am pretty young, but I was how what old was I? 20, 26.
when what?
When I completed that ocean row. And I think that for me, it was
Oh.
like, this is a huge accomplishment. This is like such a cool thing that I did. And also, it's just this little piece of what I've done. And it's also in my brain, I'm like, hopefully, a little piece of what I'm going to do. So I try to not, I like talk about it a little bit on social media, but I don't center everything around it because I'm like, there's room for more. More is coming.
That's so
Um,
interesting. It's like
yeah.
little on your bio, and you were like, yeah, because it's a little part of me.
Yeah.
So you've already done this row, or
Yeah. Yeah. So I rowed across the Pacific in 2022 on a team of four women. And none of us had ever been at sea. None of us had ever been far enough offshore to not see the shore when we did this. Three of us were rowers, had a background in rowing, and one of us had a background in triathlon. And yeah, we kind of were a total wild card. It was pretty funny, like trying to find sponsorship to be like, yeah, we're going to do awesome. We're going to go after the world record. And everyone's like, you don't know what you're talking about.
I
But we
need to
had
pull
really
up a
great
map
mentorship. We
while you're
prepared
talking.
amazingly. And we did break the world record for a fastest women's team and has yet to be broken. Every year there's a race that does a similar route to us. And so every year I watch the dots and simultaneously I'm rooting for someone to go really fast and I'm also like wanting to keep my record.
So, okay, so from California to Hawaii. Okay, so I'm looking at a map so I can wrap my brain around this. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you did that at 26 years old in
Yes.
2022.
Yeah.
So, what's the record that you
So
hold?
it's 34 days, 14 hours and 20 minutes. And the the physical challenge is so fascinating, like as you were talking about this movement mindset is the shift pattern. We rode for 2 hours on and 2 hours off 24/7. We never took a break from that cycle for those 34 days, 14 hours and 20 minutes. And so you're never getting more than 90 minutes of sleep. You're moving for 2 hours at a time, 6 times a day. So 12 hours of rowing a day. And everything else that comes that you need to do happens during that rest time, whether that's eating, cleaning yourself, mobility, nerve flossing, sleeping,
Go,
laundry,
yeah,
all of those
going to
things
the
happen in
bathroom?
this.
Like,
Oh yeah, bathroom.
yeah.
Well, sometimes you got to go, but
I'll say, is that the ocean? Like, what?
we had a bucket. It was
Okay.
pretty rugged, but yeah, and I think what's so crazy about that is it seems so, if you know anything about human biology, you're like, this shouldn't work. Like that shouldn't work at all. Or even just a regular human thinking about, man, I get 8 hours of sleep and I'm still tired. How could I do anything off of less than that? But what the body adapts to is pretty insane. And there were moments at sea where we felt totally normal. And I think it kind of made me really realize how many just humans are going about their day thinking that they're doing well or thinking that they're fine or thinking like because your body just normalizes the situation you're in. We adapt specifically to our environment. And so we saw this extreme version of that, of our body realizing, okay, I guess this is how life is. So I'm not going to have a bunch of warning bells go off all the time if this is just what life is like. And so you realize that we became comfortable in this situation that's obviously not suitable for human life sustainably. And you think about, man, what are people doing? How are people's bodies existing in life on land where we kind of theoretically have the resources to an optimal situation, but we've become so used to and normalized whatever our routine is that we don't even realize that we're kind of, it's kind of at our own detriment. Um, so that's like one of the things that was really fascinating to be like, yeah, there were moments where you're just really in pain and you're super achy. And then like 3 hours later, you feel fine. And you're like, this is crazy. And it is, again, why I'm so fascinated with kind of your realm is it's this, the communication systems in your body trying to figure out, are we in danger or not? Is there anything actionable to do? Like, how do we keep going? How do we take care of ourselves? So it's just a really interesting kind of body puzzle, brain puzzle, sensation puzzle that doesn't necessarily have an answer. No one has all of the answers or explanations as to what's going on or how you can feel horrible 1 hour and fine 3 hours later with and your situation hasn't objectively improved. um so yeah, I think it's super cool.
Understatement. Yes, super super cool. So I'm going to intro you now. So everyone, welcome to this episode of the podcast. I actually love that it happened this way and I wasn't like, here's my, So this is Sophia and you did this crazy world record at 20, you said 22 years? No, 20,
26, I think.
26. Okay, so how old are you now?
So now I'm 29. So it's
You're
been a little
29.
while.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're 26 and who puts this bug in your ear to do that? Where does this come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've always been an athlete my whole life. I was an acrobat as a young kid, and then I started rowing in high school, and I was really obsessed with it. And I think one of the things that drew me to rowing was that it did not, the rowing stroke came somewhat naturally to me, but in rowing, there is definitely this sense that a certain body type is ideal. And so you should be tall and lean, but tall is kind of the biggest one. And I'm not very tall. And so I think rowing initially, it was kind of my proving ground. And I think as an immature athlete, it was like, someone says I can't be successful at this, so I'm going to prove them wrong. And I just became obsessed. And eventually, through, I think that taught me how to be disciplined and how to work really hard. And this idea that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard just was like my mantra for like 8 years or whatever. And eventually kind of got past the, oh, I need to prove myself all the time, and got to a point of being like, of just realizing how liberating and empowering and confidence inspiring it is to put a lot of dedication into a craft and get good at it. And eventually, with rowing, flat water rowing, I got to a point in my life where it was not making sense to pursue it full time. I was like going to Olympic trials and things like that. And I kind of announced to the rowing community, to the people that I knew, that I was going to take a step back from rowing. And at that point, I had actually read a book about ocean rowing. At the time when I had read it, I was thinking that it was a pretty silly idea. It looked really miserable. It was impressive, but miserable. And I was kind of thinking it doesn't make sense for anyone to want to do this. But after announcing that I was going to take a step back from rowing, someone actually reached out to me who owned a boat, who owned a leadership development company that wanted a women's team to represent their company. And that person was Jason Caldwell at Lat 35. His leadership company still exists. And he basically pitched me on the idea of starting a women's team. And yeah, I mean, I had been thinking about it ever since I had read that book. And it was just kind of a really great opportunity for me, and being like, instead of just doing this very, with flat water rowing, it's kind of like ballet, in that there's a right way to do everything. There's a certain process. There's a very strict schedule. You show up, you have a coach. If you're going to take time off, even as an adult, oftentimes you have to ask permission, things like that. And so this idea of going from a very strict type of sport to one that was so open ended of like, okay, this is an adventure. How do you want to plan for it? How do you want to incorporate this into your life? So for me, it was kind of a great transition of being able to take something that I was already good at, but apply it in a totally new way as a way to kind of step back from the sport of rowing in general. And then I
This
was
is
like,
blowing my mind because
yeah,
you're like, this is like ballet. It's super strict. But if you don't know rowing, you're like, it's rowing. But
yeah,
that
right. You don't really get it. Yeah,
flat water and an ocean,
yeah. It's like going from ballet and then being like, and then
like
someone
choreo,
comes
like
up to you like a Cirque du Soleil person is like, hey, do you want to make your own show with all of this freedom? And then it's like you have, you have skills, technical skills that you've been refining, but it's always been limited to a certain style, a certain, arena. And now all of a sudden you get to take these skills that you have and then like blow it up times a billion and do whatever you want. um, and so that's kind of how it felt, I guess. if i could
wow. So
if I could show some,
how
yeah.
does this person find you and contact you to even ask you to do this?
So I'm a master of the cold call. I read his book, as I told you. And
Okay, that's his book,
yeah, so it
the
was his
open
book that I
water.
read. Yeah. So I read his book, and certain things, I thought ocean rowing was pretty wild and I wasn't as interested in the ocean rowing in particular, but one of the things that I had been struggling with was this idea of contributing to my community and feeling like pursuing a sport was a very selfish endeavor. And it's something that he talked about in his book. And so I found him on Instagram. I sent him a message. I said, hey, I read your book. I thought this passage was really interesting. And he also talked about sponsorship. And I was kind of, one of the reasons why I stepped back from rowing is there's not a lot of money in it. And I was kind of like, I need to be a grown up and have a real job and stuff like that. So I reached out to him to talk about initially about these ideas of how he approached sponsorship and this idea of selfishness in sport and what does it, how does one who cares about contributing to their community reconcile that they're spending 90% of their time just making themselves better, and like does that make anyone else better? And to have that conversation. And so it kind of just started as like a human connection and having that conversation with him. And as I was training for Olympic trials, I was setting out email newsletters to people who had donated because it costs a lot of money to go race at Olympic trials, and I was rowing full time, so I had no money. um, and so I added him to the email list. So we kind of got this kind of history. There was just the introduction and then the history of seeing my essentially blog posts or newsletters about how I approached training, how I approached communication, how I approached these big challenges and what my goals were. And I think that through that interaction, I think it just kind of was percolating in his own mind of thinking, well, if I want a women's team and I want to, kind of host or support a women's team to represent me, this person's approach and values are aligning with what I think would not only be successful on an ocean row, but also would align with what with my company is trying to show. And so it was kind of, I think that I kind of chalk it up to that. Just, I think that in a digital age, in some ways, it's so much easier to reach out to people. And in other ways, it's much harder to have a genuine human connection. But how having the guts to just reach out anyway and try, and then having the human, making the time for the human connection, that opportunity would have never shown up, had I not just been like, hey, random question about your book, published author, and he responded. So yeah, it was a pretty.
Right, but you did it in a so like tactful way that was like, I found this passage interesting, and
Right, like,
like
it
you
had a
weren't like,
purpose. I
you
wasn't,
know,
trying to, like,
yeah.
just get lunch and hang out with a published author or something. It was more of like a, "Hey, I wanna talk about this concept." And, yeah, I think people are generally really responsive to, I mean, number 1, flattery of being like, "Oh my gosh, you read my book, you liked something about it, that's great." But number 2, people like us, high achievers, business owners, entrepreneurs, are driven by inspiration. You have this moment of something that's like, oh my gosh, this clicks. And if this clicks for me, I can see how this is going to help so many people. And so when when you're able to have an interaction with someone who also has that spark, it feeds. it feeds people, creative people. So
Yes, it like unlocks a little piece that we're trying to unlock. I'm always like, how much can I unlock? Like it
yeah, right. You're like, ah, more, more.
yeah, yeah, there's like it's untapped, you know.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
this is so interesting how you and I are even on the podcast, right? Like just how it all I don't even know. Did you DM me? I
Yeah.
or
So
did I?
how it started is we worked with the physical therapist before our row, who specialized and worked with neuro exercises. And part of it was that there were some recurring injuries or movement patterns that were kind of puzzles with members of the team. And rowing is such a repetitive stress that it was kind of like an injury prevention mindset. But once we started working with him, we also, and started training, we also realized that seasickness was going to be one of our really big hurdles at sea. And there were kind of two different approaches that we ended up looking at in order to train for seasickness. And so, anyway, as I was working with him, also because I'm a massage therapist, a lot of things, it was like that thing of like click, 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 like things are starting to connect. And I was just looking for more sources on this kind of neuro side of physical therapy and body work. And also in my practice, I was seeing a lot of things that were starting to tie into the experiences that I was having working with this PT. And so I was just kind of generally interested, and I found your platform. We were also an all women's team, and the only people that we ended up really finding that were suitable for our needs were men. And it really pissed us off that we were like trying to have
Oh.
women involved with everything. And then we kept working with men who were like, I have so much respect for these guys and they really helped us. And also, I'm like, why am I not finding the resources that I need in women? And that's really what I want. And so when I found your page, I was really excited about that. And I just kind of followed along. So the conversation started with me asking you about how do I connect with the people that have gone through your programs, gone through your classes, so that I can have referrals for my clients or for people that I meet who I think this type of work would really help with, because that's what I've really found is like there's so many situations. And I moved and I was working in a PT office shortly there too, and the amount of people that I've seen who I think could benefit so greatly from the work that you do and the work that you teach, it's vast, but it's hard for me to find. And it's kind of hard to like know like what am I searching for if I'm like googling and I'm looking for someone. And not everyone is, some people who are amazing practitioners aren't business savvy enough to make that searchable, to be easily findable. So that was kind of how it started, but then we got talking, so now we're here.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
you're I want to say you're rehearsing for a row because I'm a dancer. I'm like, how do you word this? But you're
Mhm.
practicing for another, what is it
Yes.
called?
Yes,
Journey?
yeah. So
Like,
I'm going to, it's not even fully announced yet, but I am
oh,
preparing for another row. It's okay. We can talk about it. We'll plant the seeds.
yeah, we were not
Yeah.
announcing, but
Yeah. I'm preparing for another row. It'll be another women's team. Some members are the same, two members are new. And yeah, we're gonna do the Atlantic this time, so new ocean. But yeah, it's in the winter of 2026, so it's quite far out. We have a lot of time to prepare and a lot of time to figure out exactly how we want to get support for it and prepare for
yeah,
it. And it's really cool because we can look at how did we train for this before, what worked, what didn't work, and kind of improve upon it. But yeah, so kind of going back to our seasick preparedness and injury prevention stuff, one of the actual members of the team, of this upcoming team, is a physical therapist. So I think there's a lot of interest on the team of kind of figuring out that physical preparation side. So yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Like
Hopefully
on
less
board.
seasickness on this road, but we'll see.
Wow. I mean, I feel like 2026 winter is not far. I'm like, that's tomorrow.
I know it is coming up quite quickly, but it's the
So
timeline
here's
is longer than we did for our last row, so I feel better.
okay. Because
Yeah, and
everyone
I
on
have
the
more
team,
knowledge.
knows. I mean, I'm looking at your page. I mean, you're so athletic. Are you a pilot? I see an
Um,
airplane.
I'm working on it. Yeah,
You're
I'm
working
getting
on it.
my pilot's license this summer. My
You're
husband is
a
a pilot.
okay, you're a bike what is it called?
Dirt
BMXing?
biker.
Dirt
Yeah.
biker, you're on a canoe thing. I mean,
Yeah, I do all the
like
things.
you do all the things. Like I said, I love athletes
Yeah.
because it's just, I don't, there's something in our brains. I don't know. But
Mhm.
so where do you get this from? Who taught you this? Where,
I don't know.
why all the things in a world that it's, not, it's very easy to not be that way, right? Like,
It is.
why aren't you, sitting behind a desk 9 to 5 and like, so
Yeah.
where does this come from?
Yeah. Well, so I think as a young person, and growing up, the sports, I think, give us a sense of control over our body. So like especially I think it's more like correlated, I think, publicly with people who do endurance sports often have like a source of trauma and then they're like, cool, if I'm just gonna like run marathons now. And I think that it really comes down to this idea of understanding and proving your own strength to yourself and control over one's body. And so I think as a young athlete coming up in rowing, especially, a lot of it was needing to feel like I was in control of my body due to some trauma at a young age. And a lot of it also was that idea of like wanting to prove to others that I was strong, even though they said I was too small or whatever. And I think that part of the cool process of kind of uncovering that hidden narrative in my brain and healing from those experiences, as I stepped away from rowing, I realized that um, I was using sports and I was using these athletic events to, in almost like with a negative connotation for self-preservation, but I kind of acknowledged the gift that it was and how much joy I got from it, and I was able to kind of shift it and have it not be as much about being the best. Because at first, if you're going to prove yourself, you have to be good at it. So at first, it was like, I want to be the best at this. And I don't even necessarily love rowing. I just want to prove that I'm the best and I want to win and I want to be better than everyone else or whatever. And eventually, um, I think that actually, when I left rowing, made it hard to try out new things and made it hard to do other things because I was used to being really good. And, my first couple months on the dirt bike, I'm like falling every 50 feet and crashing, and I'm not used to real danger. And so I think having that mental shift of being like, okay, I don't need to do this to protect myself anymore, but it has given me so much joy and it is great for my health. And there's all these other benefits and like ways that I can connect with people through sports. And I think it's really just like that pursuit of growth and being willing to be uncomfortable and be a beginner, and making progress is so rewarding and fun. It's like, yeah, that first month or whatever sucked on the dirt bike when I was falling all the time. But then the first time I went over a little bump and didn't fall, I was like, yeah, I got this. I'm so cool. And so I think that we have to be willing to go through those really uncomfortable periods of growth, like of tension and not being good at something in order to get to the good stuff, which is growth and improvement. And so yeah, I think that it's something that's like innate in our nature. I think part of it too is that I've chosen to live places where it's very easy to get outside. I live in Moab, Utah right now, so it's like if I want to go dirt biking, it takes me 5 minutes to go dirt biking. Whereas like if I lived in a city, you'd probably have to drive a couple hours and trailer things, and like, it's a whole day. So yeah, I think it's a combination of like my priorities are being outside, and so I build my life in places where that's easier. And some of it is that transition of wanting control over my body, wanting to protect myself, and then realizing, wait, these things are really fun. I could just do it for fun. And now I'm more in the for fun phase. And of course, I
Mm,
love competing and I love winning, but um, I'm down to just do things for fun too.
interesting. So, when I hear you say this, I feel like you can transfer these lessons into every category of life, right? When I'm coaching young entrepreneurs and I hear you say, when I first started this, I was
Mm-hmm.
falling off every 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what learning any new skill is like, right?
Yeah.
Posting on
Yeah.
Instagram. People have this whole thing about it. Oh, it's like a whole thing, and I'm like, listen, it is until it isn't.
Yeah.
Now I can crank out a reel while I'm in the bathroom,
Yeah.
but at first I did once a week
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, for years,
Mm-hmm.
so it's or selling a course online or learning
Mm-hmm.
a new sport, it's just a wild thing. It's so because of your discipline and training in all different types of athletic endeavors, how have you seen that in real life? How have you seen these things play out not in sport?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, in so many ways, I think that discipline, it sounds like a kind of an intimidating word, but I think at its core, it's just about showing up. And I think both in sport and in life, this idea that if there's something that you want, you have to show up to it consistently. And every practice doesn't need to be perfect. Um, and I think that anything that I've tried to do, that's really been like the lesson that you learn a million times and still have to learn over and over again is like, okay, you can take, if something feels overwhelming, you can break that down into pieces and practice one thing at a time, but you have to practice. And there's this great quote that I love that is, it's something along the lines of quality over quantity works eventually if you do it enough times, which is, yeah, because I think
Wait,
that
I
we
need to
do,
process this.
yeah,
Wait, say it again slow.
quality over quantity does work eventually if you do it enough times.
If you do it
Right?
enough times.
Yeah, because it's like, well, so
So
many
good.
times, like we don't want to put something into the world until it's refined or until it's perfect. And if you don't show up, it doesn't happen. And, it's fine to show up privately for a long time, but like eventually, there's also all these, um, you know, coaching gurus out there too that will say like, don't share what you're doing because it distracts you from the work. And it's just like,
Oh, right.
maybe some people are like that, but I think that you have to show up if you want something to happen. And I think that, the ocean row, I had never been at sea, offshore. I had never done a ton of these things, but you have to show up for each of the problems that you're going to face. And then that happens in life too. You have things come up or you have a goal that any type of goal, whether it's work related, relationship related, if you
Financial
financial,
goals.
yeah, like if you
Yeah.
don't, so many people with money, for example, if I don't look at it, it's not a problem, right? You have to show up and look at it, and you have to start acting if you want to make something happen eventually. So yeah, I mean, I think that is definitely a takeaway that applies to literally anything that you do, and it even in our bodies, right? Like when you look at the work that you do with body work, it's like if you don't address our communication systems and you don't actually go to the places that are having a problem, nothing is going to change. Um, so, yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm like eating this all up because to me, it's if you don't speak the language of the brain,
Yeah.
how can you talk to it?
Yeah.
Right? If you don't, and I'm not saying you have to know the complexities.
Right.
Smell is smell.
Hmm.
It's not complicated,
Yeah.
but we overlook it as if it's not a completely its own cranial nerve.
Yeah. A
It's
hardwired
so
part of what's going on. Yeah.
literally it's so important to the evolution of a human. It has its own nerve. That's all it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not speaking the language of the brain, so you can't
Hmm.
communicate with it. So how can we change movement patterns if all the other stuff didn't work? I tell people that a lot, right? Like I hope the traditional path works. I
Yeah.
want it to work.
Yeah.
That's what I hope for you. I hope you have four
Yeah.
sessions and you're, good to
And
go
you're
and your
good.
knee
Yeah.
pain. Yeah. But when there's this like 20% of people, 10% maybe 30, I don't know, but it's the other it's the 20% of people where the normal quote unquote stuff just isn't working. And those are my people, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened to me. And
Yeah.
that's why we're all in this, is because something wasn't going well, like,
Well, yeah,
or
and I think what you said, the key word too, was like conversation about like your work. It's a conversation with the communication systems, even if you don't speak the language. Like all of those words are such cues of showing up to the conversation. If you don't have the answer, you still have to show up and ask questions and figure out what are the languages that are at play, what are the different systems that are at play, whether that's in your body with dysfunction or in life with a puzzle that you haven't solved yet. It's being willing to ask around and figure out, okay, this might seem silly or extreme or not relevant, but why not look at it, why not try? So yeah,
to try, just try.
just
Yeah,
try,
it
just
might
try.
not work, and if it doesn't, okay.
Yeah, next thing.
Sometimes
Hmm.
I always tell people, I won't say always, I say this often. Sometimes the no is more powerful than finding the yeses, because it's like, oh, now we're very clear that that's a no.
Hmm.
And we can move on, and it's
Yeah,
data,
it gives you
and
direction
it's
either way.
direction. It's like relieving direction. It's so
Hmm.
relieving to find a no to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, oh, cool.
yeah, because it's like certain
Bye.
certainty. Yeah.
Certainty. It's a no. So that's so awesome. So um I have several questions, but you have how much time? So what month is, you have a year and a half
Hmm.
before your next row.
Yeah.
What are you going to take with you mentally in your
Hmm.
mind, on this next row, and what are you going to leave behind from your last experience? Like, and so it's three questions, because I also
Hmm.
want to hear your goal with this. Are you also
Hmm.
trying to grab another world record, or is it
Hmm.
not? Or so what are so
Hmm.
it's three: take, leave behind, and are we
Yeah.
trying to get another world record?
Yeah. So I think take will be, I think that our preparation physically was quite good for the last row, in terms of the approach of kind of it being about um, resilient, robust bodies that can handle the workload as opposed to pure speed or pure strength or something like that. So, about really the goal of the training being about that tolerance for the workload and the body's ability to recover quickly. I think we'll definitely take into a lot of vestibular training, and injury prevention as well. I think that physical preparation was really good. And we can even build off of, now that we have the experience and we kind of know what that felt like, we can even do that even better. So take and improve. I think leave behind is um, we were just quite ignorant of what the whole process was going to be for the Pacific, and we really had to lean on a lot of other people to tell us how to do it. And we were really, I think, maybe just like naive when it came to I think naive is pretty strong, because I don't think that anyone was like trying to be like malicious in how they were helping us. But I think we were trying to, like, you have all these other people's opinions. And we knew that we had to just do it our way. But there were so many other people's opinions that were kind of getting in the way. And when you don't have your own experience to trust, it's harder to filter that out. So I think leave behind will just kind of be like letting other people steer us. I think that we'll be a lot more confident in our own direction and in our own preparation and knowing exactly what we want, going for this next row, which I'm really excited about. And I think adding to that also, I think we'll have a much stronger narrative of our own row as opposed to like kind of letting other people just tell our story. Um, and goals, I think that we do want to go fast. The weather conditions are very, very, um, they play a huge role in how fast you can go. So all of the world records pretty much right now were set in 2017 because the weather was really fast. So it's kind of like, of course, I want to break a record. And also, I don't want to have this result oriented goal that only have like this much control over. So I want to try and beat whoever's in the race. I want to try and go as fast as we can. And I want to do an excellent job. And I think that the team culture and how we do it is almost more important than the result, because I think that that will get
Mm,
us the result that we want. So yeah, I think goals are really like team culture, like that collaboration, positivity, maintaining control over our preparation and our story. Um, and then I think the result we want will follow from that.
right.
Yeah.
So is December not a crazy time to row? Like my brain thinks like winter,
No, so it's along
crazy.
yeah, it's like in a tropical zone of the ocean. So it's from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean is where we're going. And so in the summer months, usually there's a lot of hurricanes in that region. So the winter is usually more calm and it's still not very
Okay.
cold because you're so far south. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, it's south. Um,
Yes, got
yeah,
it.
so it's not
Interesting.
too yeah, it's actually pretty warm and it's less stormy than the summer because you don't really want to be in a hurricane.
No, no, you
Yeah,
do not.
that's South Carolina.
Okay, so how many people are going to do this 2026 row with you?
So on my boat, there will be me and three other women, but we are
Okay.
participating in a race. So the race will
Okay.
probably have like 20 or so boats in it. Yeah. So every year there's a race.
24-person boat, 24-person.
Some of them will be four persons, some three, some two, some one, maybe a couple five. So different numbers of people.
Wow.
But I'm sure we'll have other all women's boats to compete against that are four people. Yeah. So every year they do this race. It's by the Atlantic Campaigns called the World's Toughest Row, Atlantic. And the last row I did was independent. So we didn't really have any other boats out there at the same time as us. So that'll be really fun to add into the mix for this row is to be able to actually
Yeah.
compete with people who are there because I'm quite competitive. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow. I mean, this is wild.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, just so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your story with my community.
Yeah.
If you could write a letter to yourself at your lowest point, what would the first line of that letter say?
That's a good question. Lowest point. Probably this is temporary.
Hmm.
Just be like, you are where you are, but just remember, this is not forever.
I love it's so simple. This is temporary.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. It's such an athlete mind too. Just it's
Yeah.
temporary. It's all temporary, all of it.
Yeah.
All the good
Well,
emotions, the bad like
yeah. And I think it's temporary because I have trust that I'm going to do something to change the situation. Like that part doesn't need to be said. And I think that's part of it is that kind of like defining one's identity as someone who will adapt, who will change, who will do what needs to be done in order to do what's best for myself. Those kinds of things have to be like intrinsic in order for that to work. Otherwise, if you're not going to do anything about it, then it might not be temporary.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, the trust in yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're so young. It's you're so blessed to have these realizations at such a young age because it takes some people a lifetime or never, to say things so confidently at 29 years old, trust in myself, I will adapt. It's so beautiful to watch. I'm exactly 10 years older than you, and so one, it makes me feel old, but two, it's so cool. I'm talking to you and we've just met for the first time, face to camera, face to face, and I'm just thinking she's so calm. You're so calm and settled into who you are at such a young age. I was not that way at 29. I was still really in my head and just, what am I doing? And everyone
There's
else's thoughts mattered more than my own. And
there's this amazing study that I someone told me about that asked people how much have you changed in the last 10 years and how much do you think you're going to change in the next 10 years? And everyone, and like, across age groups, and like everyone, whether they were 20 years old or 70 years old, said, I've changed so much in the last 10 years, but I don't think I'm going to change. Like, I think I'm there. Like, I don't think I'll change that much in the next 10. But then, like, the 50-year-olds that they asked said the same thing. And I think that, you know, you're seeing me as if I've arrived, and I appreciate it, and I recognize the
You
kudos. But I'm
receive.
sure
Yeah.
that when in 10 years, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, 29-year-old me thought she had it all figured out and she was totally wrong. And yeah, I think that, and we relearn the same lessons a million times too. I'm sure there was a point when I was in college where I was like, wait a second, I need to do this for me, not for anyone else. And then I just went back into the same thing. So
Hmm.
yeah. But
Yeah. No,
thank you. I'll take
this
the compliment.
even you saying that is so wise. Like I say this thing to you and you have this like perspective and it's like I'm saying it from where I am from my 10 years ago lens and you're like, "Yeah, but in 10 years
In
I'm going to
10
have."
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really cool. So I'm so glad you had the inquisitiveness, the curiosity to go into that neuro rabbit hole. And then you find my account and you reach out and then we talk. And you mentioned this row, and I'm like, I want you on my
What
podcast.
is this? Yeah.
Get on here. I would love for everyone to hear your story and be inspired by it. I love the parts where we talked about how the body will adapt, and it's the SAID principle, right?
Mhm.
So it's SAID, specific. No, what's the S for? Adaptation to impose demands. I think it's specific.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like if you're a sprinter, your body will look like it sprints.
Yep.
If you're a rower, you get the rower body,
Yep.
because you're doing this imposed demand over and
Mhm.
over for however many years. And
Yeah.
um, it's so transferable and relatable to literally everything in your life, right? Like
Yeah.
you could go on a carnivore diet and then you could be a vegan
Mhm.
and your body will adapt.
Mhm.
How is beyond me. Like
Yeah.
how can
It's
we do
wild.
all the things? We can do all the things and the body just will adapt. It's like
Yeah.
right this second I could be like I'm going to start rowing because of this
Mhm.
conversation. I'm 4'11", so
You got this.
right?
I
Most people
believe in
would
you. I
probably
will
be
never
like,
tell a short
yeah,
person you
you will
can't.
never say it, but
Yeah.
most people would be like, yeah, statistics say you probably won't, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. It's funny because I'm working through some physical goals that I have right this second in
Mhm.
a body that I'm not used to, and
Mhm.
it's actually really inspiring for me right now. Like I want to get my chin ups back.
Mhm.
And I just, I've had babies and
Yeah.
complications with pregnancy and birth, and extra weight makes that
Mhm.
goal harder.
It
And
really,
it's just, I mean, you add 5 pounds and your chin up is now very challenging, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
um just working through that. So thank you so much for your time. If anyone has a question or wants to learn more about you, or is the public allowed to support you in the
Yes.
row? Like, how does this work? Please tell
Yes,
us.
yes. So, we will. Okay, yeah. So easiest would probably be social media. If you can find me on Instagram, that's public. So that's the easiest probably way to like find me. On
Which is
Instagram,
what?
it's
Okay.
Sophia's a DJ. I also got married last year. My name has changed. So if you're looking me up, the Ocean Row from 2022, my name was Sophia Dennison Johnston. That's where the nickname DJ comes from, for Sophia's a DJ. My last name's now Walters. So if there's confusion around that.
Okay. So
Um,
your current handle, how do you spell it? Sophia? Uh-huh.
SOPHIASADJ.
Okay.
Sophia's
Sophia's
a DJ.
a DJ.
DJ. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Um, we will have a website launching this summer. Our team name is the Seabirds. So I'll be posting to that. It will have its own social media. It will have its own website. It will have a donation link on the website to donate to our row. Also, we will be looking for partnerships and sponsorships, which can include deliverables like social media posts or logos on the boat. But what we're more excited about would be speaking engagements and workshops. So we do a lot of team building and a lot of leadership talks and workshops. So that would I would think is the highest value that we can add to anyone who wants to collaborate with our team. Super interested in that. But yeah,
Awesome.
I'll send you
Okay.
any of the info once the website's live. It'll be live this summer.
Great.
And
So they would reach out through the website and say, "Hey, I'm
mhm,
really interested in a workshop with you and your team," and
mhm,
you would work out the details.
exactly. Yep.
Is I can I just straight up ask like how much it costs to do this race?
Yeah,
Like
it's
how
our budget right now is looking at a little bit over $100,000.
Okay, for
Yeah,
your team
for our
to
team to do
do
this race.
this, you
Yeah.
need 100 grand.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, got it. That's less than I was actually guessing. I'm like, well, you could get 100 grand from one person.
Yeah,
um,
I
I
know.
mean, if you
Yeah.
find the right person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 100 grand. I mean, that sounds very doable.
Yeah, yeah, because now we
Like,
have all this experience, you know, we have the
yeah.
boat, we have a lot of the equipment that's necessary. We have the both people on the land team and people in the boat who are world record holders in ocean rowing. So a
Wow.
lot of the things that are bigger initial costs for first time teams, we don't have as much to worry about. So we're able to streamline it a little
Okay.
bit better. But
Very
yeah,
cool. It's so exciting.
yeah,
Wow. Sophia, thank you so much for contributing to my community. I'm so grateful and I appreciate your time. And I will see you on the interwebs.
yeah. Thank you. This was really fun.
Yes, it was so fun. And good luck on your race. If I don't have another, one on one moment with you, I will be absolutely cheering you on. And I can't wait to share your website information when it does come out. I'll be super excited to share that with my community. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for your time.
awesome. Thank you, Missy.